Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Put this here for a moment. Ma tovu halecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu halecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. These words are from a blessing in the Torah pronounced by Balaam, a non-Israelite prophet. Balak, king of Moab, wants Balaam to come and curse the people of Israel. He's very afraid of the people of Israel. Many events take place. You can read all about them in this week's Parsha. They even include a talking donkey. Many events take place. This Parsha, it's in like Numbers 20 and onward. These events lead up to moments when Balaam, the prophet Balaam, several times blesses the people of Israel instead of cursing the people of Israel. Balak, king of Moab, is very upset with Balaam about that. But Balaam says over and over, I will only say what the Lord tells me to say. And Balak takes Balaam up onto different hills to look over the camp of Israel. And Balaam blesses the people, and then Balak takes them to another hill, and Balaam blesses the people, and another hill, try this hill, try that hill. And at one point, we read in chapter 24 of Numbers in this week's Parshat Balak, as Balaam looked up and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came upon him. Taking up his theme, he said, word of Balaam, son of Beor, word of the man whose eye is true, word of him who hears God's speech, who beholds visions from the Almighty, prostrate, but with eyes unveiled. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, O Jacob, and your dwellings, O Israel, like palm groves that stretch out, like gardens beside a river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the water. Their boughs drip with moisture, their roots have abundant water. Their king shall rise above Agag, their kingdom shall be exalted. God, who freed them from Egypt, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov. So, what was the beauty he saw? The rabbis ask, well, seeing the camp arranged before him, that suggests something to the rabbis, that it wasn't simply physical beauty, not necessarily, nor even most importantly, physical beauty. Even though he speaks of all of this water, all of the water would have been a symbol of beauty in the wilderness, in the desert. So we might assume perhaps the water, it wasn't actually water. But the arrangement of the tents is one clue, and some rabbis suggest that the arrangement of the tents was done in a way to assure privacy. None of the doors faced each other. In effect, there was a moral beauty to the way everything was arranged. Or perhaps there was an extensive amount of Torah study. The rabbis certainly valued Torah study. And they look at the words tents and dwelling places, They say the tents of Jacob are the synagogues, and the mishkanot, the dwelling places, are the places where the people are dwelling, or yoshvim. The dwelling places of Israel are the yeshivas. So how beautiful are your synagogues and your yeshivas? We can certainly see that here where we are. We have a beautiful synagogue that was built by the hands of the congregation. The Gera Rebbe, also known as the Sfat Emet, language of truth, in a book translated by Art Green. The Gera Rebbe, who wrote in the 1890s, suggests that the tents are the communities of Jews wandering in the diaspora, and that the dwelling places, the mishkanot, are like the Mishkan, the sanctuary, the temple in Jerusalem in the land of Israel. So, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, how goodly are your tents, how goodly are your communities in the diaspora, and how beautiful are your places in the land of Israel. I suggested this week, when I was making a recording in the prison, that Ma tovu suggested that, on the one hand, wherever we pray or study Torah, we should understand that a certain beauty pertains to that space, so we can bring beauty to the place where we are, even a prison, through prayer and the study of Torah. I also suggested that there, as well as elsewhere, we should look for beauty wherever we are, in whatever is around us, whatever is around us, whatever the place is, wherever the place is we are living. So even in the prison, walking across the mowed field, I noticed small clover flowers, and inside, underneath the cut grass, were wild strawberries in the grass, things that many people would overlook as weeds. Or there was a vine of blooming morning glory on a fence in the corner. Or I even suggested seeing the reflection of the sunlight in the concentric circles of the razor wire on the fence. My message was and is, look for the flowers in the weeds. Look for the flowers in the weeds. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov. Look for the flowers in the weeds, and you will see how beautiful is the place, the tents where you live. Extending that attitude towards events, that attitude of looking for the flowers in the weeds, extending that attitude towards things that happen. There were things that happened. I will share with you this week something that happened to me. I was parking the car after coming back from the prison, and all of a sudden, the button on the gear shift wasn't there anymore. After a minute of looking at the gear shift, wondering what did not look right about this, I realized that that button had broken off. Such a small and annoying piece of plastic, but that is the plastic button I need to push in order to switch the gears, and without it, the entire car could become unmovable, and there is nothing more useless than an unmovable car. So the next morning, because it was already evening, through awkward application of my thumb on the gear shift, I immediately got the car to the dealer. Maybe it could be glued back together, but no, it's more complicated than that. Parts need to be ordered. Not one, not two, 3 parts need to be ordered exactly. But only 2 parts make it onto the truck making deliveries from Philadelphia the next day. And it's not like these days anyone has any extra pieces of plastic hanging around just waiting till they're needed. Everything is ordered only on demand, on the assumption they will actually come in. So it all took, luckily only another day of carefully using my thumb to hold the spring inside the stick shift mechanism every time I changed gears, because if that spring had popped out, everything would stop. It seems crazy though. One simple piece of plastic, which among other things was holding in a cheap, tiny spring that's now threatening to come out, and yet, for want of that little piece of plastic, the whole car could stop working. And I suppose, looking for the flowers in the weeds, I suppose there is a lesson in this for all of us. We are each just a little piece of plastic, but without our little bit of doing our part, the whole enterprise could fall apart. So everyone, step up and do your part. Each of us. Don't think you are overlooked or forgotten or worthless. You are noticed, accounted for, and accountable, and you matter. Every little one of us contributes to making the whole world run somehow. And regarding counting, Thursday was my parents' 61st wedding anniversary, and we could not get together for their 60th due to COVID. So next weekend, we are all getting together. We were going to try for this weekend, but a little piece of broken plastic got in the way. Looks like, though, July 4th weekend works out even better for a lot of logistical reasons. So, July 4th, yes. I was going to say I'd like to put in a word for July 2nd, though, the day when the resolution was really accounted for, but that's another sermon and we won't go there. So, everyone, be the piece of plastic that you were each meant to be, because there is a role for all of us. Shabbat Shalom.